topic of biodiversity. So last week we discussed on the center of origin. Okay.
Recording in progress.
So today we are going to zoom in a little bit and on evaluating the biodiversity at a localized place or as a study case. So for the purpose of our discussion, we will use Malaysia, okay, to discuss about biodiversity. All over the world, there are certain countries that's been dubbed or called mega diverse countries. Okay, so what is mega diverse country? Mega diverse countries are countries that is actually very small inland area or covering only a small surface of the earth, but support huge amount of biological diversity on earth. Okay, so in this case, the mega diverse countries, this group of mega diverse countries, they cover less than 10% of Earth's surfaces, but then, okay, they contain more than 70% of the world or global's biological diversity. And this concept was first developed by Mittermeier in 1988, okay, as a conservation priority action, meaning that if we are going to look at diversity at the world level, okay, so we need to prioritize these countries. Okay, and then from his analysis, okay, it's found out that 4 countries actually accounted for 2/3 of all primate species in the world. Okay, so he started with primate analysis. Okay, and then he expanded to add the mammal, bird, reptile, amphibian, plants, and selected group of insects. So the result of this study is actually 17 countries have been identified to represent more than 2/3 of all known life forms and the majority of tropical rainforests, coral reef, and other biology systems. So these are the mega diverse countries of the world. Okay, Australia, the Congo, Madagascar, South Africa, China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, United States, and Venezuela. All right. So these 70 countries were known as the mega diverse country. Okay, and this concept is based on the total number of species in a country. And what's more important is the degree of endemism at the species level and at higher taxonomic levels. Meaning that, endemic meaning that, okay, this country must have a certain number of species that only can be found at that places. Okay. So the World Conservation Monitoring Center have recognized the 70 mega diverse country, okay, in the early 2000. All right. So these 70 countries, okay, if you look in the diagram, okay, it shows the number of endemic vascular plant species in these 17 mega diverse countries. Okay, so Australia is the 5th number. So if you look at Malaysia also, we have around 8,000 endemic species, meaning that each of this country, this number of endemic species represent that the number of species that can be found only in that particular country. Okay, so Malaysia is included in this. We are one of the mega diverse country. We have around 8,000 endemic species in our own country, even though our country is actually quite small. All right, that was plant species. How about other species like the non-fish vertebrate species? Okay, in Malaysia also we have our own endemic, okay, vertebrate species. Okay, meaning that non-fish species like birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. So in Malaysia, our awareness on biodiversity is very low. Okay, we only appreciate certain species, whereas we actually a mega diverse country with a lot of species and a lot of endemic species. But in Malaysia, we have this mindset of like a trend. When when there is a trend on something, everyone loved it. Okay, we have the culture of becoming followers. We like to follow people, following the trend. We might not realize that some animals, some frogs beside our house, or some lizards on the walls of our houses, they might be endemic. Other people would pay to see that, but for us, we discriminate them. Okay, so biodiversity. Okay, so we must remember that biodiversity or the biodiversity of species are actually the building blocks of the Earth life support system. We depend on them. All right. However, normally we are actually facing huge crisis regarding biodiversity because we are losing species and the habitat of all these living organisms at a very fast rate. Because of that, some scientists have been working and established what we call the biodiversity hotspot in the world. Okay, so biodiversity hotspot are areas that support natural ecosystem that are largely intact, which means that they were yet to be disturbed. Okay, and where native species and communities or the ecosystem is still intact or well preserved. Okay, so this hotspot can be found all over the world, and nowadays this hotspot is the focus for preservation and conservation. Yes, we have the 70 mega diverse countries, but the 70 countries also need to develop their nations. Okay, we cannot put sanction on them. We cannot ask them to, okay, let your country stay as a jungle. Malaysia also cannot be staying as a jungle forever. With the population growth, we need new housing and so on. So we need to have development, but we need to make it sustainable. But there's certain portion of the world heritage that need to be preserved. Because of that, so this portion, scientists zoom further and try to find, okay, what we call the biodiversity hotspot. So these are what we call the biodiversity hotspot. Okay, so they have the red, the dark green is the biodiversity hotspot, and then okay, the light green is what we call the outer limit of it. Okay, and whereas for Malaysia, okay, we are here. So if you look here, Malaysia is a dark green, and all over Southeast Asia or in the surrounding areas, okay, is actually the outer limit for biodiversity hotspot. And this area of Malaysia is known as, this area in the Southeast Asia, okay, is known as the Sundaland. It is our own name, okay. So the whole area that includes Malaysia, the Indonesia, okay, Brunei, okay, and also Singapore. This is what I call the Sundaland. Okay, and this area, okay, have or contain flora, spectacular flora and fauna. Okay, however, this area also currently succumbing to the explosive growth of industrial forestry. Okay, now we have logging issues or development or rapid development issues. I think it is a sensitive issues, but this is the reality. Okay, our forest is being grazed down to the ground at a very alarming rate, and day by day, if not, okay, news will pop up, okay, in the media about all these issues regarding deforestations and destructions of our natural habitat. And in Malaysia, aside from okay, we are in the hotspot. We are a mega diverse country, and our countries are declared as the world hotspots for biodiversity. But are we not doing anything? We did. Okay, either it's enough or not, it's for you, all of you, to further explore, okay, digest, and give your own opinion. Okay, form and give your own opinion. All right. So what has been done so far? Well, what have been done in Malaysia so far? We have what we call the National Park or Taman Negara. Okay, the first one is on Peninsular Malaysia. So at Peninsular Malaysia, we have what we call the National Park. Okay, first actually the Gunung Tahan Game Reserve, and this national park has been gazetted, not new. Okay, since before Malaysia gained independence from the British, it was gazetted in 1925. and was declared as national park since 1939 under British administration. Okay, and since then we keep gazetting other places as national park. Okay, and in 1984, okay, the National Park of Malaysia was declared as Asian Heritage Park. Okay, and these places were managed or administered by Department of Wildlife and National Parks of Peninsular Malaysia or Perhilitan. Okay, so there's a lot of details about it that you can read. Okay, the details of this National Park of Malaysia is encompassing several states, okay, including Kelantan, Terengganu, and Pahang. Okay, so this National Park of Malaysia is actually considered as one of the oldest landmass in Peninsular Malaysia, because the age of our this particular forest is actually more than 130 million years old. Okay. So there's so many rivers or virgin rivers, okay, inside our national park. Okay. And then not only about wildlife, but the abiotic condition of our national park also very unique. Okay, we got diverse rock formations. Okay, various type of sedimentary. Okay, so we can go to study minerals too, or the abiotic factor of an ecosystems. Okay, in terms of values, okay, so our national park of Peninsular Malaysia is the first and the largest national park. Okay, all right, so it is the hotspot for biodiversity. Okay, because it hosted a lot of species, including endemic species, rare species, vulnerable or otherwise threatened in Malaysia. All right, so these are the EZ spot, okay, inside the Taman Negara. Okay, so you can read later. All right, so the Malaysian National Park, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of flora diversity, plants, okay, or plants related species, all right, it hosts more than 3,000 species of plants. Okay, so the fern, okay, are well endowed with more than 246 species in 36 families of fern. Okay, we got diverse fern, okay, in our national park. And among the unique species are the Agathis flavescens, Podocarpus deflexus, Podocarpus montana, Gnechem globosum, and of course, Malaysia also, one of our special heritage is feature plants such as Nepenthes gracillima, Nepenthes macfarlane, Nepenthes sanguinea, okay, and also palms. Okay, we have several types of palms, including one palm that's called Tahan Serdang. Okay, and in fact, the palms, this particular campus of us, okay, the campus Serdang, the word Serdang comes from a type of palm, okay, Serdang palm, okay, and several other species aside from Podocarpus, okay, and carnivorous plant like Nepenthes. We also have other type of carnivorous plant like Rafflesia. Okay, we also have Rafflesia, okay, in Peninsular Malaysia. All right. At the same time, okay, we got wild grapes, okay, and a rare type of orchids like jewel orchid, Lucia discala. At the same time, our national park hosted more than 46 species of relative of cultivated fruit trees, meaning wild species of fruit trees. All right. And then other notable flora in our national park. We have Elec tahanensis, Syzygium simundi, okay, the epiphyte, okay, the Hoya. Okay, I love Hoya also. Aside from orchid, Hoya also very interesting climbers. Then we got also begonias. Okay, begonias are actually a well-known plants all over the world, especially in China. Okay, and very being popularized in the Europe. However, Malaysia have our own begonia species. Okay. Okay, that's about flora. What about fauna? Okay, Malaysia also has diverse fauna species. And our national park hosts the largest population of animals, around 150 species of mammals, including Asian elephant, Malayan tiger, Plantaera tigris jacksoni, clouded leopard, leopard cat, flat-headed cat, Asian golden cat, and Malayan goa, Himalayan tapir, wild boar, binturong, mengkira, barking deer, samba deer, mouse deer, Malayan sun bear, siro, Asiatic wild dog, siamang, white-headed gibbon, dusky leaf monkeys, banded leaf monkeys, and etc. So we are also being endowed by rich, species of mammals. All right. Aside from plants and mammals, our country also have been habited, by huge number of species of birds. For those bird watchers, we have around 479 species of birds that have been recorded, including the migrant species. And some of the birds actually endemic to our country. All right. And then there are also a lot of special reptilian in our national park, such as the snake. We got several types of snakes is endemic to us. We got frogs, and there's some type of small salamanders and some also fishes, So our national park, have been maintained since 1938 and 1939. It's been managed since the colonial government by the British. And when we gained our independence, the government of Malaysia, and also the respective state where this Taman Negara is located, national park is located, we jointly manage these places. All right. And then we got inside the places, we got several conservation areas. And aside from the first gazette of the national park, this park also have been protected further under several other laws that have been passed. For example, the provision of the Taman Negara Enactment Kelantan 1938, Taman Negara Enactment of Pahang 1939, and Taman Negara Enactment of Terengganu 1939. This shows that, at the federal level of the government of Malaysia, we have an act to protect this area. But then we have another layer of laws to protect it, which is being passed through the legislative of the particular state, which is Kelantan, Terengganu, and Pahang. However, some small part of it has been degazetted, but very small. But the actual data, I can't discuss too much. But I think I urge all of you to make your own research on how much actually the original national park is still intact. Might be sensitive a little bit, but you can explore by yourself. As such, since we are a mega diverse country, we have hotspot. We are, as a country itself, a hotspot for biodiversity, but we also have our own hotspot inside certain places within our Taman Negara or national park. So aside from Taman Negara of Peninsular Malaysia, we also have a national park in Borneo. So actually the backbone of this is actually being shared, of Borneo is being shared by Malaysia and Indonesia. So some part of it falls into the jurisdiction of Sarawak and Sabah, and some is by the Indonesian government. So for the hotspot inside the country, there's some restriction or some rules or some criteria that need to be met. For example, for a biodiversity hotspot, that place or region must have at least 1,500 vascular plants as endemic. Meaning that it must have high percentage of plant found nowhere else on the planet. That is a hotspot. And they should be irreplaceable, cannot be replaced if they are gone. And we have that actually. So around the world, there's around 35 areas that qualify as hotspot. So meaning that, all over the world, there's 35 areas that have a special plants. So if these 35 hotspots in the world are destined to go, then the world will lose, okay, around 2.3% of land surface, but nearly 43% of special or endemic species. So that's why hotspot matters, because it underpins all life on Earth. Without these species or rare species, further development in biological science cannot be done. That's the simplest and the shortest conclusions. Because of that, most countries all over the world, they have their own rules and regulation to ensure that biodiversity is being protected. As for Malaysia, we have this. So as a case study for this class, okay, we will use Malaysia as the model. For Malaysia, we have a policy at the national level. We call it National Policy on Plant Biodiversity, okay, focusing on plants. Okay. So, and also, this policy also cover other biological beings. So this NPBD 2016-2025, okay, it's actually a revised version of a national policy on biological diversity in 1998. Okay, so this policy is planned to guide Malaysia up to 2015. All right. So this NPBD has several what we call key principles. First one is heritage. Okay. To conserve our national or biological heritage. Okay. And then secondly, precautionary. That's the key. All right. Meaning that before we use or we try to exploit it, we must approach development or any handling of matters regarding biodiversity with cautions. And then we must create awareness by sharing the responsibility of taking care of the biodiversity. And how to do this? That's why another key to our national policy is participatory, meaning that we try to involve as much agencies and people as possible in this task. And then, while we have a good policy, we establish the heritage, we know how to do it with cautions, and we share the responsibility, we must have good governance. Okay? And here is the key part. If we don't have good governance, governing boards or agencies or departments related to our biodiversity, all effort might go in vain. Okay, so Malaysia National Biodiversity have several goals. Okay, 5 goals particular. Okay, we want to empower and harness the commitment of all stakeholders to conserve biodiversity. And then goal number 2, we have significantly reduced direct and indirect pressure on biodiversity. Number 3, we have safeguards all our key ecosystem species and genetic diversity. And then number 4, we have ensured that the benefits from the utilization of biodiversity are accrued equitably to all. And number 5, we have improved the capacity, knowledge, and skill of all stakeholders to conserve biodiversity. And one way is through this subject. Okay, we want to empower all of you because one day you might become the stakeholder, you become an officer in a government in charge things that relate to biodiversity. So, out of 5 key principles and 5 goals, the National Policy on Biodiversity of Malaysia specifies 70 targets. Okay, so all this target is actually about responsibility to each of compartment in Malaysia. What can be done by each of us? So the details of it, okay, I will share with you, okay, later on for you to read. So for today, we are discussing about the biodiversity of Malaysia, the concept of mega diverse country, the hotspots, okay, in Malaysia, and then also we have a study case on how Malaysia conduct their preservation and conservation effort at federal and legislative level by having a national park and also by having a policy by its own. All right. So any questions so far, my friends? So this is the national policy, okay, on biological diversity of Malaysia. This is a very thick book, so I will give it to you, around 116 pages. Okay, so I will give it to you to skim through, okay, to get an idea on how Malaysia, what has been done so far for us to protect biodiversity. And then you need to explore yourself, either it is enough or not, and this is true or not. And then you must relate to the current situation, to the news that we had. How we have done, are we doing enough or not? Okay, so I just show you this document will be given to you. All right, and then okay, let's take a look also at things that relate to biodiversity. All right, there's some general issues regarding the biodiversity. So aside from information about diversity, what about the current status of us? Okay, the current status of biodiversity in the world and in Malaysia. Wait, where is Zoom? Guys, are you there?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
Okay. So there are a lot of issues regarding biodiversity out there. Okay. At world level, at regional level, at country level, at state level, or at local level. One example is this paper. Okay. So this paper is focusing on Southeast Asia biodiversity. Okay, the word itself, the title of the paper is An Impending Disasters. Okay, I'll give you this paper, and hopefully through this paper you also find latest paper regarding this. But if you look this paper to conclude, okay, our diversity in Southeast Asia is actually in a dire state. Okay, full of threats. Okay, we are threatened, and I think so many years have passed since this paper was published, and up to the moment, I think there's a new paper. Okay, so we are actually losing a lot of things. Look at the extinction. Projected extinction in Southeast Asia. Okay, if you look at the number, the red numbers, okay. So this is actually the percentage. We are losing a lot of species at a very fast rates. Mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fishes, butterflies. Okay, fast means decapods, crustaceans, and plants. Okay. So they use Singapore, okay, as a study case. All right. So this paper also will be shared with you. All right. What about Malaysia? This is a very old paper. Okay, let me share with you about Malaysia. But I think there's also new papers coming in. Just to show you this old paper, meaning that 20 to 30 years ago, okay, people are talking about this already. Okay. So if we look at this paper, okay, of Malaysia also, okay, we are very rich, very simple issues, but at the same time, we are losing species at an alarming rate. But what has been done thus far? Okay. Okay, so this paper, okay, this paper is about the laws and policies of sustainable management of biodiversity in Malaysia. Okay, and actually there's a lot of research trying to look at the law and policies on preservation and conservation of biodiversity at each of the countries. So I want all of you to explore, okay, the laws and regulation at world level and at country levels. Okay, what actually being done recently? Okay, are we having enough law? Do we need to have more laws? What about the enforcement of the law? Okay, the question remains, what are the status currently and what have been done? Okay. All right. So I think that's all the material that I want to share for today. Is there anything you want to ask? Are you still there or are you gone already? All right, don't worry about the materials. Okay, I will give all of them to you. So the topic today we discussed about the concept of mega diverse country and the world, okay, biodiversity hotspots and the criteria of it. Okay, what number of species need to be there? Okay, the keyword is that they must contain endemic species. Endemic species means that species that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. If they were gone, if this hotspot's gone, the world of the earth will lose them. Okay, will lose this particular species forever. Okay, unless you can find the portal to other universe or exist in multiverse. Maybe it existed in other universe. Okay, I do not know. So I think that's for today's discussions. So any more things that you want to ask or clarify, my friends? Yes, Sofita, what do you want to ask? Mm-hmm. Yes, you can add, make it merry as much as you want. The template is actually what's important is the placing of the logo, UPM and so on. The design inside actually depends on you. Okay. All right. Okay. You can put any colors, any pictures, you can play around with it. Okay. So anything else you want to ask? No? If no, please open your camera and class rep, give us a count and snap a picture of our attendance today.
Okay, sir.
Okay, for our international students, okay, please also read the policies in your country. There will be a quiz later on at the end of our all lecture weeks. There will be a quiz. Okay, not a quiz lah. There will be some sort of simple questions. Okay, for you to answer in Putra Blast. Okay, so I will need you to give some sort of short essays or paragraph. Okay, so if our international student, if you are interested to study or about your own countries on the policies on how they manage diversity, please do so. You can use the case study of your own country to answer. Okay, for that particular assignment later on. Okay, even in the exam. Okay, as long as you put the reference, that's all. Okay, so the question about diversity later on the policies and so on, okay, or case studies will be very open. You can quote whatever you have in class, or you can put any information out there, okay, about your respective countries like China or any other countries. All right, let's take picture, guys.
Okay, I want to ask, if Fasha, are you okay to open up your camera? Fasha, Azimah and I don't know who is Zoom user.
Who is Zoom user?
I don't know. Okay, right. So let's take picture, okay? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, second take. 3, 2, 1. Okay, last take. 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you. That's all.
Vivo at 70. Are you okay there? You look so full of protections. Who's that? Okay.
It's me.
All right, guys. I think that's all for today. Okay, Sanity. Yes.
Doctor, I have a question, Doctor, about
Yes.
the poster.
Yes.
Let's say in the writing assignment, I did about a single species of tree, but there are 2 trees. So that means I have to do 2 posters, is it?
No. Okay. Each of you just make 1 posters.
1 poster.
Okay. So let's say in the information that you found, there's so many trees at the place. Okay. It's actually not only information about the place. Okay. Maybe you can highlight 1 or 2 trees, 1 species, but if there's other species, you can include. In fact, all the information that you found about the place, okay, about the place that you visit, you can also include that. Okay. All right. So the poster is not only about very dry about this plant species locality, no, but also about your pictures on how to explore where the places you found in UPM also to be there. It's actually the same thing, but you turn it into a poster. Okay.
All right, sir. All right, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay. It's more like a popular writing poster, not totally a scientific academic poster. Okay. So we want to make people familiarize with the heritage of UPM. All right. So feel free to be creative and to show yourself to the poster and to highlight, okay, all the species that you found, okay, through this program. All right. Is there anything else? We got chat here. My internet connection. Sorry, camera is laggy. Okay. All right. There's nothing serious. So I think that's all for today. Stay safe and have a good day, everyone. Okay. Assalamualaikum and good evening.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you, Doctor.